Well, first of all, some part of this presentation won't be shown to you because you know the majority of the terms, so I'll skip that. But before that, we started experimenting a bit with digitizing stuff, mainly books and old journals. This effort was made by my library, which is the University Library of Skoder, and the public library. We've seen something, we experimented something, but it was bit difficult. It's hard to create those best practices. Until we had a meeting in Greece last year, which we learned what those best practices were and which were the best ways to show those materials to the users. So starting from that, we tried to create a digital library. It was a joint effort between us and the public library. So that was short terms, but you know those terms, I'm going to skip them. That was the hardest part, actually. The hardest part for us wasn't the digitation of the materials. The hardest part was how to show those materials to the users. And it was hard because we wanted something that would be easy to start with, but could permit us to grow with time. After some research and some discussion and a lot of stuff, we decided to go with Omeka for the digital library part. And we made a very non-fashion decision to show the materials within the déjà vu format. We choose the déjà vu format because for the moment it's hard to just put materials in line, just images, because a lot of websites and crawlers and everybody else try to copy those and publish them as their materials. The problem is not the copying of the materials, because they are public and they can use them however they find fit. The problem is that they miss the old cataloging part, which is the most important part, at least for us. So they just ruin good work that has been done there. That's why we just decided to go with Déjà Vu. The platform, as I said, was Omeka. We liked that because it was simple. It was very lightweight. It was modular, which for us was one of core requirements. It was open source, and we loved open source because we don't have that much money to buy fancy stuff. And it permits import and export to different formats. For the moment, we're just using XML, but for the future, we plan to, via integration to Europeana, to rely a lot of Open Archive initiative just for the communication part. Another thing, the platform was pretty good, but it needed some stuff to be worked on. So we added some plugins there. We rewrote the multi-collection and plugin, the hierarchy plugin, the multi-owner, because we are two libraries, and every library wants to see their logo on their material, and they like that. We added different sorting options for the materials. We created a Déjà Vu viewer, because Omeka didn't have one. We added support for different material types, audio, video, players, and the idea was to make them more modern, so HTML5. We had an option for advanced search that is not only on the metadata, but also on the text of the materials, and added the option to export doubling core, because we thought to use Mint when we started. We wrote that, but now we're working on a new plugin to export directly in ESC. And that's the actual situation. We have 46 books, which are online. We have a wide collection of magazines from the beginning of the century to before the Second World War. The total scanned pages for the moment, the total scanned pages which have metadata on them is that big number down there. We have another 600 materials scanned, which are waiting to be processed for metadata. The situation, that's the way how we automatize the project. We try to make it as simple as possible, because it's very time-consuming, and it's very hard for people who work at the library to do another job, and they usually don't have time. Being a university library and being a public library, they don't have time because they have to deal with a lot of people and have stuff at the same time. So we simplified a bit all the process the work process. The idea is that at the end, the person responsible for cataloging just receives a mail with a link of the material and that which is right to be cataloged. And that's what we plan to do for the future. We are training Tesseract to recognize Albanian. The problem is that with modern Albanian, the problem is with old Albanian because we have diacritics on all the vowels and it's not that easy as we thought. We are in discussion with the local museum and with other 3 libraries, and they have seen how a digital library looks like, and they loved it, and they would like to submit materials. For that, we are working on a partner model to automatize a logo down on the page. Another thing that we are doing is that we are working on georeferencing maps. We have some really nice maps, at least we like them, and we'd like to make them, to put them online. The problem is that we would like to georeference those maps. We'd like to georeference those maps because we see the digital library as sort of a small brick in a much more wider view. And the idea is that via OIE, we can, or the user or somebody from outside can connect those data and create stuff, can create more things with those data. And that's why we'd like to georeference it. Another reason is that the Albanian National Photo Gallery has started digitizing their old photos, and they plan to add georeference to the photos. So we would like to end up having those 2 geographic references, and people could generate their site, or could generate their sites with data from all the possible catalogs. The problem, and a big problem we had, is that copyright management, which is still a big problem because the laws are not updated, and some stuff which we put online shouldn't be there, and sometimes we can be there, we didn't put it online for not being, because we're not sure of what to do there. Well, the installation in other libraries, museums, they loved it, so they are going to, they just didn't like to install it, so we're going to host all their installations. And we'd love to work on the big search engine for all those museums, but since the other institution chose to use our installation, that won't be useful. And by begging and by making a lot of publicity everywhere, we got a better scanner, so we can work more. And we are still begging for a university for a better hosting solution. What else? Everything we did, we put it open source. It's on GitHub, and everybody can use it with all the new models and everything we created. So people which had our problems can find the solution ready and just start using it. Online, you could find the scanning process automation, which is just a couple of scripts in Bash, but it does miracles. The Deja Vu applet, all the changes made to Omeka, and every model we developed for Omeka. And that was it. Pretty smart, pretty short, and